Yeah, there's a few questions on there where, they may ask you to, they may give you a building and ask you to, to place antennas in there, right? Maximize the signal inside the building, minimize the leakage outside. That's a possible question that you could see. You could see something where they want you to configure an access point. One that I remember from my last Net Plus exam was there were 3 access points. And so you're setting them up in close proximity, and you have to make sure that they're not going to interfere with each other. So, those are examples of the type of questions that you can see. You can also get like a subnetting type question where, there's a few different departments, and each department needs a certain amount of devices, right? And so you have to figure out which subnet mask you're going to be using for each subnet, right, for each department. Those are examples of the type of performance-based questions that you could see, but at the same time, it's important to understand that you're not going to see many of those. The majority of the exam is going to be multiple choice, right? So the majority of it is going to be this, 90%, probably 95% actually is going to be multiple choice. And then, you'll probably get 3 or 4 of those performance-based type questions at the beginning. They all come at the beginning. So my advice there, a strategy that I picked up after my first exam, because I made a huge mistake. I got thrown off guard by these. My first CompTIA exam, I wasn't expecting them because I didn't do my homework. But so from that point on, what I did was I just started skipping those. I just flag them, and then I'll come back to them and do them at the end after I've done the rest of the exam, right? After I've gone through the multiple choice. So that's a strategy that a lot of students use, and a lot of them agree that it's probably the best thing to do, because when you do the math here, you can get a total of 90 questions, and then unless you have some type of accommodation, you're only going to have 90 minutes. So that breaks down to about a minute a question, right? Normally, these take a little bit longer than that minute, so that's why I try to save them for the end. All right, I hope that answers your question. But
oh, it does. Thank you.
No worries. Okay. Anything else in particular that anyone has any specific questions about? How many performance-based questions are there? It just varies. But the last time I took a Net Plus exam, I saw about 3 or 4. I took A+ a few weeks ago, and I saw 3 or 4. So that is, at the max, you'll probably see, 4 or 5, and then you'll get into the multiple choice. And yeah, no worries. That's something that I guess they're going in a different direction with those, because when I first certified back in 2013, 14, there were a ton of performance-based questions. There were probably like 7 or 8. So when I first started taking the exam, I thought I was taking the wrong one, because I wasn't expecting those questions at all. I was expecting it to be multiple choice. So it wasn't until I got to like question 8 or 9 where I figured it out. But then like I said, I didn't do my homework, so I didn't look at the objectives. I had no idea what to expect. I just kind of sat down for the exam and and just hope for the best. It's probably something you don't want to do. So, okay, are they worth the same amount of points as the multiple choice questions? That I don't know how they grade those. I don't. What I can tell you is normally there's a lot of different components to those questions. So, for example, the one with the 3 access points. It was like a building, and there's 3 access points, and you have to configure them to, to maximize the signal, right, throughout the entire building. But you just have to make sure that, that they don't interfere with each other. So you're configuring 3 different devices versus a multiple choice question, right? So, I mean, if you get a multiple choice question right, you get full credit. And I'm assuming that, you can do a lot of a question like that right, and maybe you can do some wrong. So I don't think that they grade them the same way. But then again, I don't know how they grade them. I really don't. You have to go to CompTIA's website to get a better idea of how they grade those. The grading scale is weird as it is. It's hard to, when you do the math, it kind of equates to about 80%. So, if you get 80% of the questions right on this exam, you should get a score good enough to pass on just about all of them. So, okay. Hey, Don, how's it going? Any other questions about the exam as a whole, or any particular concepts anyone is struggling with? Okay. So, spanning tree protocol. Okay. Yeah. So, when it comes to spanning tree, basically you just want to know the purpose of it for Net Plus. Okay. If you're on Cisco, it's a little bit different. You learn a lot more about spanning tree protocol and how it actually works, how you configure it, and things like that. As far as Net Plus go, you want to know 2 things. One, it prevents routing loops. Okay, and then the other thing that it does is it provides redundancy for your network. All right, let me give you a quick example. Let me bring up Packet Tracer. I'm pretty sure I have a network here that I can use as an example. Let me see. No, not this one. This one. Not this one either. I need one that has multiple access points. Yeah, I guess we could use this one. This could work. I just have to add another connection. So, okay. So bear with me for a second. All right. Have you guys talked about the CCNA? No, because everyone here is working on Net Plus. They're not. No one here is working on CCNA, to my knowledge. So we haven't talked about that. Okay. So ideally, I would like to set up a network and do that, but I'll just give you an idea. So when you have multiple switches connected, right? Yeah, sort of a mesh going on. And I could add an extra access point here and but I'm not. So, right, you have these switches. You have all these switches, and they're all connected together, right? So the purpose of spanning tree is to ensure that, one, there's always, each subnet can always connect to the other, right? And this one, I think it's separated logically. Let me take a look real quick. Yeah, see, so if you look there, you can see that I have 3 different VLANs. Look at the very top under VLANs, and you'll see that I have 3 different VLANs. So even though these are all connected to the same switch, they're actually in different VLANs. So they shouldn't be able to communicate with each other. Can someone tell me why? Anyone, if you know, shout it out. Type it in the chat box. How come this PC cannot communicate with this PC? If I try to ping it, it won't work. So let me just do a quick ping and show you, right? If I do that, it shouldn't work, right? Is that an extended ping? I'll do a quick one. No one? Anyone want to guess? Okay, it's because there's no layer 3 device here. So when you have devices in different VLANs, like I have here, I have these all set up in different VLANs, right? So sorry about that. So the first one, the one up top is in VLAN 10. The one in the middle, PC1, is in VLAN 20, and the one at the bottom, the laptop, is in VLAN 30. Okay, so since these are in different VLANs, it's like being in a different subnet, right? Literally. So these devices cannot communicate with each other because they're in different VLANs and there's no layer 3 device here. You have a switch, and you have a switch, but there's no router here. There's no layer 3 router here either. So because of that fact, these PCs shouldn't be able to communicate with each other. Oh yeah, there it is. Right, so you can see it failed when I tried to quick ping. So I'm gonna try to quick ping here, and it failed. Right, same thing here. I'm gonna quick ping this one to this one, and you see it failed. Right. Well, when I look over here, I have the same VLANs. Right, I have VLAN 10, 20, and 30. So you'll see when I quick ping this one, right, this is in VLAN 10 and this is in VLAN 10, and this ping is successful. You see? So in order for me to do that, I had to configure trunking, right? I had to allow trunking to to traverse these connections here, right? But same thing, if I ping this one here and I ping this one here, it should be successful, right? And it is. If I try to ping this one to this one, it should fail. See? So anyway, that's the difference between logical. It's an example of logical versus physical, right? So even though these PCs are directly connected to this switch, they can't communicate with each other, right? Because this is configured logically instead of physically. Okay, so yeah, what I would need to do in order to get these PCs to be able to communicate with the other PCs in different VLANs is I would have to throw a router in here somewhere, and then configure it to know where each device is. Either a router, well, actually, what you need is a layer 3 device. So either a router or you need a switch with layer 3 capabilities, a multi-layer switch, all right, and that'll allow these devices to talk to each other. But so let me come back to spanning tree real quick. Okay, so let's say that these were 3 different segments. I had just this one segment here, and then let's say that these were connected logically. Okay. Right, and then maybe I had another subnet up here, right? So what spanning tree does is, one, it prevents routing loops. So if I'm sending something around, what's going to happen is all the direction is going to go in one direction, and this one is going to get cut off. This connection here is going to get cut off, depending on which switch is going to be the main one, right? Which one is going to be the root one. There's going to be, I don't want to go too deep into it, but the main thing that you need to know for Net Plus is just know that it prevents routing loops, right? It's going to cut off this end so that if something is going around, it gets caught in a loop. When it comes this way, it's going to get dropped, right? It's not going to keep going this way. And then the other thing that it does is it provides redundancy. So let's say that something happened to this connection here, right? What spanning tree is going to do is it's going to fix it and it's going to send everything back this way, right? And make sure that everyone can still communicate. So one, it prevents routing loops, and two, it provides redundancy for your network. In case you lose a connection somewhere, it's going to find a backup way to get everything what it needs, right? It's going to find a backup way to make sure that each device can still communicate. All right. So let's see here. Is that Kareem?
Pardon, Tristan. I'm just putting that out there for you guys. I'm just laying off in the back, but I just wanted to update folks who didn't know. So I'm not trying to take away from what you're doing, so that's why I'm just typing it and standing by.
Right, no worries. Okay. 23rd. Oh yeah, good info. I appreciate that. Okay. So does anyone have any questions on that? On spanning tree or just on this concept, right? Different VLANs. I know everyone's at different levels, so I don't want to, I don't want to go over anyone's head or anything. I just want to try to answer whatever questions you guys have. So everyone's cool on VLANs and spanning tree. Okay, roger that. All right. Any other? Hey, Justin, how's it going? Any other particular concepts anyone wants me to address pertaining to Net Plus? It's really easy. Just scroll through, pick something that's either bugging you or just scroll through the objectives and look for something that you don't quite understand. That's kind of what it's about. This exam is going to be troubleshooting heavy, so make sure you're good on that, on troubleshooting, not just the steps, but identifying where you are is really important, not just for Net Plus, A Plus as well. They're going to put you in the middle or they're going to put you at the beginning. And most of the time, there's going to be a lot of answers that could all fix the problem. So what you need to do is just figure out where you are in the process, what you've already tried, and then 9 times out of 10 is normally, what's the next best step? Or, which one of these would best fix this situation, or, something like that. Or they may say, well, would you try first? That gives you kind of an indicator that you're at the beginning of the troubleshooting process. So be ready for that. So in the last session, we were talking about subnetting. I'm not sure how many of you are comfortable with it. I did want to do a session that was primarily dedicated just to subnetting, so we could kind of just get it out the way. Because it's something that comes up a lot, and a lot of people get freaked out about it. But, the thing with subnetting on Net Plus is you're not going to see a lot of it. You may see a question like the one I described earlier, or you may not. You may see no sub. The last Net Plus exam I took, I didn't get any subnetting questions on it. So it's more of a Cisco thing. By the time you're doing Cisco's, and hopefully you're pretty good at subnetting, but you just need to know the basics for Net Plus, just how to do the basic stuff. So looks like no one really has any questions. Everyone's pretty good. So you're all knocked out now. That's right. Cool. Uh, you think it's the heat wave? Yeah. Honestly, I don't really know where to go from here. I don't want to just be talking just to talk. If you guys have like specific questions or concepts, I'll be happy to answer them. But I want to just pick an area and just go from there. I'd rather talk about something that's going to help someone. So, what you tours you certified practice? Sure. It's just ucertified.net, I think. Where's it's over here? Ucertified.com. Google Plus. Library. So this is pretty much. I don't have the Net Plus version. Actually, I have A Plus and I have security. But this is how you get to use certified. Is that what you were trying to find out how to get here, or these aren't really tests? They're more like modules, or they're like activities. It's not really a test. Like installing the processor or expansion card, or it's just kind of like a virtual environment for people who don't have the actual hardware. You get you get a motherboard here, and well, this one is just installing the Ethernet adapter, right? Like, where does it go? Where do you put it? Right. So it's just like a software version of hardware, if you will, right? Just kind of supplementing that stuff. Michael's asking, out of the 90 questions that are going to be asked on the exam, is there a number of questions out of the pool, a certain number that are different versions of the exam? Questions out of a pool of a certain number of questions. Yeah. So basically, are you asking, does everyone take the same exam? Yeah. There's a huge pool, and the chances that you're going to get the same exam as someone else are real slim. Now, a lot of people see the same type of questions, particularly the performance-based ones. So out of the pool, let's say that there's 900 questions in the pool, maybe 10 or 20 of them are performance-based questions. So most people get about 3 or 4. So, once you start doing the math, most people see similar performance-based questions. And then, you'll see some of the same multiple choice questions, and some of them will be different. I've heard people describe the exam, and, they'll tell someone, know your port numbers, right? I got like 7 or 8 questions on ports. And then another person will go take the exam, and they'll say they didn't get any. So, most people you're not going to get a similar exam. But when it comes to the performance-based questions, those, like, most people will be able to relate when it comes to those, especially if it's one that gave you problems. Because a lot of those kind of, an example of one that gives a lot of people problems, or one that a lot of people remember on the 902 exam, actually, is the one where they want you to map your work email on a mobile device on the phone. I want you to configure it so that you get your emails on the phone. And for some reason that stands out, because a lot of people, they just seem to remember that one. And even I do. I remember it from my exam. Same question. So, let's see. Subnetting professor, yeah. Someone else mentioned that too. Professor Messer's 7-second subnetting video. Subnet is not really that difficult. It's just it's one of those repetition things. That's it. So once you get it, you just have to do it until you get it. You get it more, and it becomes easier. Have any tricks to remember each of the different wireless standards? Which ones are you referring to? The 802.11 standards? The A, B, G, and N, and AC? Is that what you're referring to? Or okay, yeah, 802.11. All right. It's really not that difficult, actually. I mean, so your A, what you want to remember is the speeds, right? You want to remember the speeds and the frequencies, right? So there's only 2 frequencies on this exam, right? They haven't added the other one yet. I don't believe, but so you're gonna have your 2.4 and you're gonna have your 5.0, right? So B and G use 2.4, A uses 5.0, N uses both. AC is limited to the 5.0, so you're only going to get AC on the 5.0 frequency, right? 2.4 you're going to get on B, G, and N, and A is 5.0, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, but that is just, I don't know, I would just put that on a flashcard or something, right? I mean, there's not much. Let me pull up where are the course notes for this exam. All right, so 2.11, 4. There we go. Wireless standards. All right. So, I would just kind of study this. This is what you need to know. And, start with this, right? Start with the frequencies. These are easy, right? Because you got 5 here. So A and AC, if it has an A in it, then it uses the 5 gigahertz only. Okay. B and G use 2.4 exclusively, and N is the one that uses both. So just try to find a way to remember that. And then just remember that N is where you're using MIMO, okay? Multi-input, multi-output, that's where you're using MIMO. And AC, you're using, you have your speeds here too. So start here, and then once you get these frequencies down, then, just get these down, and you'll be good. Because these are really, if you think about it, once you get this down, if they ask you about these are like layup questions, right? You just have to make sure that you can associate something with these. But trust me, it gets a lot harder than trying to memorize these, right? Just trying to memorize ports and protocols, and whether they're using TCP or UDP, that's harder than trying to remember this. So, yeah, I'll tell you in just a second where you can go. Where are we at? We got about 10 minutes left. Okay. All right. Yeah. See, here's all your ports and protocols right here. So it's going to be harder to get these down than it is to get that down. That's pretty simple. The wireless standards. So that's one of the few areas on this exam where memorization is cool, right? There's a lot of stuff you don't want to memorize because it's conceptual stuff and it's like troubleshooting. But, stuff like this, like the OSI, model, and this is cool to memorize. Ports and protocols is cool to memorize because these don't change, right? When you see them in different exams, if you move on to Sec Plus, these are going to be the same. Cisco, right? Kareem was talking about Cisco earlier. These are going to be the same in Cisco, right? So this stuff is cool to memorize, stuff like this. But other stuff, you want to make sure that you understand the concepts. It's not about memorization. It's about being able to put the stuff into action and troubleshooting stuff. So switching loops, right? Spanning tree, we were talking about that before. Just make sure that for Net Plus, when it comes to spanning tree, you just know that it prevents your switching loops. All right, switching loops, and then it also provides redundancy. So they ask you about that as well. Make sure you understand that. Other than that, don't go too much in the spanning tree. If you get to Cisco, you start to understand it better, how it's actually configured and how it actually works. So, let's see what else. Maybe I'll do a subnetting section next time. I meant to do it this time, but we got off to a late start today, so that's my fault. Apologize for that. Okay, Jeff. Yeah, have a good one. Any other questions before I cut the broadcast? ACLs, same thing. ACLs are a pain on Cisco because you have to know how to configure them, right? There's two different kinds. There's your standards and then the extended ACLs, and you have to know how to. It's not just you have to know how to configure them. You have to know which interface to put them on, right? So when you get to Cisco, ACLs are kind of a pain. For Net Plus, just know what they're for, right? Access control. That's it. If you want to, if you're trying to stop something, right? If you're trying to block web traffic, right? You're going to create an ACL that blocks HTTP on port 80, right? If you're trying to block, let's say you're trying to, you have a server. I think we had a question about this a couple weeks ago, but let's say that you have a server that you don't want to be susceptible to ping flood attacks, right? So you create an ACL that blocks ICMP, that blocks pings, right? That's what an ACL is for. So just make sure that make sure you understand that for Net Plus. You don't want to go too deep into concepts before you need to, right? You have plenty of time to understand like how to configure them and how they work, right? With one, you just need to worry about the source IP address, right? And then on the extended, you have to worry about the source and the destination, right? And then you have to put them on different, you have to put them in certain classes and different interfaces and things like that. So that stuff you don't really need to go into detail with at this level. Just understand what an ACL is for and why you would use it. And that is, that's all you need to know for Net Plus. Okay, we can have a totally different discussion when we're doing a Cisco session. For Net Plus, I don't want you guys to go too deep into concepts when you don't need to. So, yeah, don't do it. And the best way to know, like, how much of something that you need to know is just use the objectives. They'll tell you. Right. So here it says, right, given the scenario, configure the appropriate IP addressing components. Right. So, this is one thing. Here they're saying compare and contrast characteristics of network topology. So they're not telling you to set these up. They're just saying compare and contrast the characteristics of them. Right. You see what I mean? ACLs. I forgot where they are talking about ACLs. Maybe it's up here. ACLs right here, right? So under ACLs is under 1.3, and it just says explain the concepts and characteristics, right? They're not saying configure an ACL. A lot of this stuff, you go into a lot more detail with it, right? VLANs and trunking and, port mirroring, spanning tree, all this stuff, you go in a lot more detail when you get to Cisco. Right here is just understanding the concepts and being able to explain and pick something out, right? They say, which protocol are you going to use to prevent switching loops? Well, you just need to know that spanning tree. You don't need to know how to configure it or anything. So always when you're trying to learn something, always refer back to the objectives and figure out exactly what you need to know and how far, your skills need to go for each section. With some stuff you need to be able to configure, with others you just need to know the difference between it. All right. So don't do too much. All right, just like we were just talking about the 802.11 standards, right? This one, they're talking about implements, so you do want to make sure that you have a decent understanding of these. The frequencies, speeds, and distances, right? This is just the stuff that you need to know. This is it, right? Which ones are using MIMO, which ones using MU-MIMO, right? So if you can figure that out, you'll be fine. Objectives, let me show you real quick. And I do not mind going a little longer because we did get off to a late start today. So if anyone wants to hang around and ask some more questions, I'm fine. And if you do need to take off, just leave your name. Please leave your name in the chat box, and that way I know you were here and I can put you on the attendance list. Okay. All right. I forgot where we were going, where I was going with this. Oh, okay. So if you go to the forum, hopefully everyone has signed up for this already. If you haven't, make sure you do that. Restore my previous session. No, it's not what we want. Okay, give me a second. All right, so just go to our forum at forums.learnkey.com. Scroll down till you get to CompTIA. All right. CompTIA here, we're Net Plus, so go to network. And then just look for the objectives. You see a link to Professor Messer's trainings here as well, course notes. The objectives should be here somewhere. Probably on the next page. Probably been a while since I put them in here. So you can see there's some subnetting tips and videos and stuff here that was put here a long time ago. Where do I put the objectives? Questions, training. Side model, ports, protocols. A lot of good stuff in here, but I can't find the objectives. No worries. So I'll make sure that I'll put them in here. In the meantime, the easiest way to find them is go to Google, or you can go to Exam Compass as well. But I'll just go to Google. That's where I go on that. So you can see here I was studying. Then I got an email that said, "Where are you?" All right. Just go to Google. Just type in the exam number. So N10-007 objectives, right? And just always make sure I'm going to this one, right? You want to make sure you're going to, I think it's this one. Yeah, there you go. And then just save those. So when did you sign up, Robert? Was it recently when you registered for the forum? Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's why I haven't got around to it yet. Give me a second. I've had my head down. I'm just trying to get ready for this exam. So okay. All right. Anything else on Net Plus? Any concerns anyone has about what they're going to see, what's expected of you, what you should know, what you should ignore? Okay. So what should we ignore? Anything that's not on the objectives, ignore it, right? So like we were just talking before, right? We were talking about ACLs, and it's easy to get caught up in those concepts, but because it's pretty, it's not really that advanced. It's one of those repetition things too, right? The more you do it, the easier it gets. But what you want to ignore is the stuff that's not on here. So if it's not asking you to configure something, don't worry about trying to configure it, right? Just make sure that you understand it, right? What's up here, and then anything that's not up here, then ignore that. Any installations or any of the extra stuff, don't spend a lot of time on the stuff that's not here. That's what you ignore. Okay. Sometimes it can be hard to understand that because a lot of people they don't understand this. They just think that they need to know everything about all of this stuff, but really you just need to summarize this stuff. That's it. So that's what you want to ignore. All right. So a couple things I want to show you guys before we cut out of here. There's some resources that you want to try to use to make your understanding of this stuff a little bit better, right? So one that I was using earlier to demonstrate spanning tree is Packet Tracer. This is an advanced tool, but there's a course that kind of walks you through how to use this. But when it comes to the actual configurations, coming in here and then like creating these VLANs and configuring trunking and things like that, you have to know how to do it. Okay, so if you don't know how to do it, then obviously it's not something that you're going to be able to do. But this is an awesome tool because it gives you access to all of these devices and all of this equipment, switches and routers and end devices and servers, and there's just a ton of stuff that you have access to. And if you know how to configure it, you can configure it. So this is a really good tool for hands-on. Another one that I always like to mention is this NetPlus hands-on simulator. This is actually from Pearson. So this is a really good tool, and it gives you, there's three aspects. There's a matching aspect, which is something you could see on the exam, as well as drag and drop and simulation. All three of these you could see on the exam when it comes to performance-based questions. So this is a good tool, and it's a teaching tool. So there's a lot of activities here that you may not know how to do yet. But it does have activities that kind of walk you through how to do this stuff. So I'll give you an example of one, right? Create a crossover cable. This is just making sure that you put, the color schemes for each one, right? So what's the color scheme for a crossover versus the color scheme for a straight through, right? So this gives you some good practice with that, and you can actually, physically do this. Which is cool. And then once you do it, you can test it over here to see if it works, right? So this is it's a pretty good tool, and it does give you access to, like, let's see here. There are some activities here that provide, like simple networking concepts. They let you play around with. Let me just find one that has a switch that you can configure. Antenna placement. Actually, let me come down to net troubleshooting. All right, troubleshooting practice. All right, so you can see here, this is like a simple Soho. Right, you have a couple wired devices. You have a wireless one right here. You have a switch, some PCs, and you can actually come in here and get some information, right? Actually, I don't like this one. I like the one that lets you configure the switch. I'm not sure where it is. Oh, this one, probably. Yeah, there you go, right? So you have a little PC here. It's connected to a switch. And what they do is they just walk you through how to enable port security, right? So if anyone was here when we had our security session last week, one of the questions was configuring Sticky Mac, right? This walks you through how to do that. So, Michael, if you want to access this particular resource, you have to go to Pearson. Just go to Pearson's website. This one is not provided through LearnKey, okay? So you're gonna have to purchase this on your own, but it's not a lot. You go to Hands-On Simulator. It should take you to it, right? Just make sure you get the 007 version. This has more labs. This one's outdated. And it's only $40. So you get a ton of labs, and it's good for hands-on practice. If you're one of those people that learn from doing, this is a really good tool. It's well worth the money. Okay, so this is one that you probably want to try out. Okay, it's a really good resource. All right, you can see it gives you a ton of different activities to do, and there's some advanced stuff here too. So if you're someone that is working on Cisco like Kareem, right? Kareem's probably working on Cisco now, since he passed his Sec Plus a few weeks back. So one that would be good for him, right, is subnetting, because now Kareem, he needs to know subnetting on a higher level now. So this is a really good activity for him to do, right? Because he has to come through here and identify, you know, which address is going to work in each of these different subnets, right? So this is a more advanced activity. This isn't something that I would recommend for someone who's just net plus level, right? This is intermediate IPv4 addressing, right? This is a little bit more advanced. So this is one that I would skip if I was just doing net plus, but this is good for Cisco, right? This is good practice for that. So, okay. I think that's it, right? So these are a couple of tools that you can use. These are ones that I definitely utilize, and I'll be going in for net plus pretty soon. I have about a year before my cert expires, so I'll be going in to take it pretty soon myself, and I'll be using this tool to help sharpen my toolbox. All right, along with this one, right? It's a really good tool to use. It just requires knowledge and stuff that you're gonna need, at least basic switch configuring knowledge in order to get this to work correctly. But okay, I don't have anything else. Are there any other questions that anyone has? Correct. I'm going to go ahead and take the head count now. So, Kareem, if there's anything that you want to bring up regarding Cisco, feel free. Go ahead and shoot. I'm going to be taking on the names real quick. So, if anyone has anything to say, go ahead.
Yeah, roger that. Appreciate it. Now, I'll just adding on if anybody, or just asking if anybody's planning on getting any type of CCNA.
No one here has Cisco on their timeline? Okay.
Somebody said not as of now. I'm talking about going forward.
Yeah, probably not. So what you're doing now, Kareem, with the sessions, I know you haven't been in a while, but what we're doing is each session has a specific topic, and the invites are filtered. So only the people working on Net Plus are going to get the invite for today. Just like Tuesday, if you're working on A Plus, you're the only one that's going to get the invite on Tuesday, and same thing for Security Plus. So, and we don't have a Cisco session yet because there's not enough people taking it. So,
okay. Yeah, no, it's all good. I like I said, I was just trying to, try to add on and try to help folks. But it was, but are you familiar with the changes, or have you, when I sent you the email, have you looked into it?
Yes, I did. I did take a look at it. And I've seen that.
Yeah, so it's like, for me, I'm going to go ahead and work my butt off to complete the current CCNA so I can get grandfathered. And so I won't have to take the larger portion of that test next year, because basically what they're saying is that the industry, they've done surveys, and I guess the industry is looking for people with a broader scope of just not just networking, but they want automation, some programming, security, things like that. So that's why they've adjusted that CCNA. So it's like, if you don't get the current one now, then you're going to have a broader exam later on. And that's just what it is. So I was like, okay. So I'm already in, but the goal is just to knock it out. And then for somebody who already has a CCNA, what'll happen is they'll get the new one. And if they have something like, let's say in let's say networking, routing, and switching, they'll get a badge and specialization badge for that discipline. But going forward, any subsequent, like once you have to take it, your next one in 3 years, it's going to be the full Monty with the new stuff.
Okay.
So, but yeah, it's just like, people have a timeline and they're trying to get theirs out the way. It's like this, because I know we haven't been talking about it, but I saw it on the YouTube, and it's real. So, but it's just the idea, if you're trying to get it done soon, or especially before February 24th of next year, then it would behoove you to speed up your pace if you're doing that.
Because you're going to be taking a more broad exam if you wait, right?
Oh yeah, it's going to cover stuff that you may not like or have the aptitude for. It's like if your strength is not security or some of those other disciplines, you're going to be forced to know that stuff.
Okay. All right. So everyone, that's a really good point. Make sure you keep that in mind. Right now, you have an option. You have two options. You could either gain your CCNA, the actual CCNA cert, by taking 2 exams. So like, it's kind of like A+. You have to pass one and then you have to pass another. Or what you can do is you can kind of do what he's saying is going to be the norm in the future. You can take an exam that covers all of the topics. So that's basically what they do, is they give you an option. You can either take an exam that has everything, or you can take one that splits it up right now. But what he's saying is, as of February, you're not going to have that option anymore. You're pretty much going to be required to take the more broader exam. So that's something that you're interested in. Make sure you do your research on that and start working. That's a really good point, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Thanks a lot, Kareem.
Oh, no problem. That's all I got. Like I said, I just wanted to sit in on the session, but I didn't know, for those folks who are, like I said, trying to do it. But it's all good. But as always, appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. So let me go through these names real quick, and then everyone's free to go. I have Don, Johnny, Kareem, Kimberly. I don't have your last name. If you could type it in the chat box, that would be great. Max, Michael, Mike Campbell, Renee, Robert, Travis. Okay, got you. Did I miss anyone? Okay. Well, great session. I think we've got some really good points out today, especially the stuff concerning the Cisco stuff. So don't forget, this session was recorded. It will be posted within the next day or two. I just have to go through it and look for where I need to edit. And you'll be able to view this replay along with any other ones. Just go to the student forum again. Scroll down till you get to tutor replays, and each of them are here. So this one will be posted within the next day or two. It'll be here. All right, here's some of the older ones that we did. So, all right, there's nothing else. Everyone have a awesome weekend, and I'll see you next time. Next session by me will be Tuesday. It'll be A+. So talk to you all next time. Have a good one.
All right, bro. Later.